okay, I'm not saying they should do this. I'm only talking about this because it was on a TVA Sports article that happened to pop up on my timeline, and as a result, I read through it, I scrolled through it, and I was like, oh, we're talking about this stuff now, aren't we? So, Canadiens fans that are going to go out there and flame me in the comment section below for talking about it, hey, I'm just kind of doing my job, seeing what's in the media and responding to it, giving my own 2 cents, and opening the floor to you. It is not my doing when it comes to sparking this up. I rarely do that. I only usually talk about things if said things had been discussed by other people in the media beforehand. That's kind of a pattern here that we have on this channel, aside from, of course, Why I Want, because that's kind of, yeah, you get the difference, right? So, today's article comes from TVA Sports, as we had said. We'll translate everything from French into English because my French kind of sucks. Canadiens. 2 transaction offers. Okay, no, 2 trade offers. Trade offers, that's what it's supposed to say. Not transaction offers. Trade is a lot more colloquial. This was published on the 17th. I didn't want to make this video yesterday because the Canadiens were going to play the Penguins. By the way, that was a terrible game. Like, was that the worst game that we have seen from the Canadiens this season? Like, and that's saying something, you know? They had a lot of bad games in 21-22, but that Penguins game might have taken the cake for being the worst one. And we had ourselves the video made yesterday already about Cole Caulfield, so this is kind of what they're talking about on this article over here. If you were Marc Bergevin, who would you have the most priority for trading among the veterans? The question was asked Wednesday to journalists Nick Cloutier and Anthony Martineau on the occasion of their weekly column on the show JIC. Cloutier was the first to speak out, and he opted a package-type offer. If I were Marc Bergevin, I would try to create an auction. I would call the Stanley Cup contenders and offer them Ben Chiarot and Joel Armia. These are 2 big guys who are made for playoff hockey and who would take a team involved to another level. The return for these 2 guys would be interesting to me. A first-round pick and a hope. A hope should say a prospect, right? That's kind of what they mean, right? I'm not crazy to assume that the original screw the original translation. A prospect. The host, Jean-Charles Lajoie, actually goes out there and disputes this trade idea. He says, okay, if you want a first-round pick and a prospect, you could probably get that by just offering Chiarot to other teams. That's actually something that Elliot Friedman said as well. We're going to talk about that a little bit more tomorrow or in 2 days. I'm not really too sure. Trade rumors, you know, this is kind of the thing about them. They can have a longer lifespan than immediate news. Lajoie says on the article here, who would you replace Chiarot and Armia with? And the reply is Jesse Ylonen, and one of the many prospects that lead to the position of left-handed defender in the organization, said the journalist. So what Nick Cloutier is suggesting is a trade of Ben Chiarot and Joel Armia for futures, a first-round pick or a prospect included in that type of move. And the replacement-level players on the Canadiens would be Jesse Ylonen and maybe some other left-handed defender out there like Mattias Norlinder, who actually looked pretty good yesterday against the Penguins, but, I mean, the team still lost. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, now that the Canadiens are in a bad position, now that they're going to miss out on the playoffs, now that they're all of these bad things that we really didn't expect them to be, it's a lot easier to start saying, all right, well, once March comes around, we're going to trade X, Y, Z, we're going to get rid of these players, we're going to build for the future, we're going to get assets back, etc., 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 because, you know, there's no more hope for this season. All of a sudden, all the contracts, all the UFAs to be, these are all trade bait, and these are all assets that could probably go out there and net you some good returns should you sell on them at the trade deadline. We already spoke about Ben Chiarot and Calvin DeHaan over to the Rangers. We'll talk about Ben Chiarot a little bit more later in the week, but for Chiarot to be going out there maybe with a package of Joel Armia, I do kind of like the assessment that these guys are indeed big-bodied playoff players that do well in that type of environment. We saw last year in the finals, or not in the finals specifically, but in the finals run, that Ben Chiarot and Joel Armia were both really valuable players. Chiarot playing shutdown minutes, going out there, bodying guys off the puck, and doing his thing. Meanwhile, Joel Armia just had the puck on a string in the offensive zone. Teams would go out there, try to steal it away from him, clobber him down on the boards, but Joel Armia could just stand tall, bring the puck over far away from the opposition, and then just casually escape pressure. It was a very sort of clockwork routine for Joel Armia in terms of being able to escape opposing defenders. It was kind of strange that he has that ability so on key. But either way, I don't doubt that there probably would be some teams out there, playoff teams, that would be interested in a Joel Armia or a Ben Chiarot, but the biggest idea here comes in the next trade proposal. This is what Anthony Martineau says on the article. For his part, he took a slightly more controversial avenue, targeting a player established in Montreal for several years, Brendan Gallagher. For Martineau, we have to put emotions aside and know how to recognize that the attacker's contract, 6 years earning him $6.5 million AAV, will quickly become very difficult for the Canadiens. His quote is here: "When a player is in the first season of a very generous 6-year extension, and we already defend the agreement by saying, yeah, the guy's working hard, there's a problem. A darn big problem. At $6.5 million a year, you have to do more than work hard." The quotes laid out here are very on one side, I guess you could say. And anyway, the hard work does not replace the countless sequences where he finds himself on the butt, nor the 10-second presences where he comes back to the bench completely out of breath. And above all, it does not erase the many gestures of selfishness on the part of Gallagher. The last few times he has gotten angry, it wasn't because he cared about the team, rather it was because he was angry he missed an empty net, or that he was angry with Romanov for too intense coverage in training, or that he was in good shape against Barclay Goodrow for a gesture which only concerned him and him alone. Martineau is suggesting that Brendan Gallagher now is just too feisty Brendan Gallagher, and not enough, okay, actually go out there and score Brendan Gallagher. Take a look at the point share right now. He's at 8 points in 18 games played, which isn't bad. If you do the math on that, 8 divided by 18 multiplied out by 82, that's a lot of 8s right there. He's on pace for 36 points, which would be one of the lower-end producing seasons of Gallagher in his career. I mean, you take a look at the back-to-back 30-goal years in 17-18 and 18-19. The guy's capable of a lot. It's just this season on a bad Canadiens team, we haven't really seen that come out to play in the greatest respect. Which is why it's even being brought up here that, okay, the guy's making $6.5 million, he's got 7 years or whatever. We need to trade this guy. How do you do that, you may ask? Well, this is what the JIC, Jean-Charles Ross, says on the show. I know all of that stuff, Anthony, but if you tell that to other GMs, do you think they're going to want to take on Gallagher? Martineau replies, and he says he can be enticing for some teams, but if you withhold part of his salary, you retain the salary. He is still a hard-working guy whose effort is never in doubt. He goes so far as to saying that Brendan Gallagher is currently a handicap for the team. And, you know, I don't like making these videos where I just read articles and I just only read the articles without giving too much of my own opinion over here, but, like, I kind of needed to explain this one. Do you feel me? Like, this one was so contextually dependent that I was like, yeah, I need to go out there and read this so I can get across the message they're trying to portray here. Okay, sure. Brendan Gallagher is not a perfect player. And he is somebody that a lot of people can agree. He has his flaws, and maybe this season he hasn't been as good as he has been in the past. But do you give up on that after a year? To me, Brendan Gallagher's trade value is not going to go down too much, even if he continues on this trajectory for 21-22, pretty much because of the defense that the Canadiens are just really bad. Like, this is a team that it's going to be tough for anybody to succeed on, unless your name is Nick Suzuki or Jake Allen. Thanks, Jeff Petrie. But for Brendan Gallagher to be even suggested into a trade, to me, it's a lot more just like pulling strings and trying to be, okay, let's calculate the most absurd thing over here to generate the most discussion and generate clicks and all that. And I guess that's kind of what I'm doing here by making this video as well. But again, you know, I have the excuse that I'm responding to things that are in the mainstream media, not necessarily bringing things up myself. And these guys are getting paid to do that as well, so I guess we're kind of in the same realm over there. But still, when it comes to a Gallagher trade, I think it's a little bit too early to go out there and even suggest it. Armia, Chiarot, I get it because they're expiring, but for Brendan Gallagher, you've got so many years in this contract, there's no rush to trade this kind of guy, you know? Unless somebody comes in there with a big offer that you can't refuse because they really want Gallagher and they believe he's got 30-goal potential still. I just don't really see it. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about this entire thing over here? Do you see a Chiarot and Armia trade? Do you see a Gallagher trade coming out soon? Let me know in the comments all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed. This was Charles 99. And bye.